Some of these videos I make, they may sound like I'm picking on people, like I'm harping on the younger generations. And that's not really what my intentions are. My intentions are maybe they can take some of the experiences I've had and apply them. And I read a lot of these comments, especially when I just can't understand why the younger people have such a hard time with life, a life that I went through as well. And a lot of the argument is, well, it was easier then. Things were cheaper then. And then I'm thinking this morning, wait a minute. 2012, the very end of 2012, we might as well call it 2013. I showed up here with nothing, man. A cardboard box and a suitcase and a few pieces of clothing. That was it. The car I was in was 5 months behind in the payments. They were looking for it. I knew. I gave it up to them. And things were just as hard then as they are now. But it's not the way the times were back then, which wasn't that long ago. It was what I did, okay? It was my motivation. And I have been through this many times in my life where I pick up, I get rid of everything I own, and I go to the next place. I worked in the newspaper industry, running printing presses. The jobs were plentiful back in the day, not anymore. And if I wanted to move to a different city, I'd do it. I'd pick up and go. There is a certain type of person it takes to do that. A lot of people don't have any experience with traveling. They don't have any experience with being in other places other than the area where they were born. They think it's outside of the normal train of thought to even consider moving somewhere else. Now, this video is not about moving here or there, but I'm going to go over the things that I did that I don't think make any difference. It shouldn't make any difference whether it's today or 20 years ago, because these things are all in your head and it's your choices that can make or break you. Now, one thing I do see a lot today is young people. When I say young people, I'm talking people under 40, okay? Maybe they don't have a positive career established yet. These are the people who usually struggle. I was one of those people. I never stayed at one job too long. I stayed in the same line of work, but I like to travel. If I could go back in time, I wouldn't change a thing, because I got to live in a lot of different kinds of places. I've got to meet a lot of different types of people. But I would show up in these places with nothing. The first thing I would do if I got a job, I would negotiate. Okay? A lot of people don't even realize you can do this. I would negotiate with my employer, my new employer. Say, hey man, can you help me out? Can you put me up in a hotel room for a month? Can you maybe spot me $2,000 to get a place? 95% of the time, they would do that. And some would go above that. Some would not even require me to pay them back, especially if it was a hotel stay. If it depended on how bad they needed help. But I would negotiate way before I got there. Let's use moving to Florida as an example. This happened in 2006. I was in Minnesota. I had been staying in one of those extended stay hotels in Minnesota. I stayed there for a year because, well, it was convenient. It was $162 a week. I worked right across the street. I just walked to work. Didn't matter what the weather was. I could come home for lunch, cook a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup, and walk back and be there within a half an hour. But it was convenient. All the bills were paid. So that's how I chose to live at that particular. It was about a year and a half that I stayed at that job. That's how I did it. But then I got online and I started looking I was working at a marble company, which is another trade that I had was marble and newspapers. And usually I stayed in the newspapers, and if there was a marble shop in that city or a town close by, I would get a part-time job doing that because it paid well, and I had experience in that, and I would work 2 jobs. But I wanted to get back into printing because it paid more, and so I found a job in Florida. Flew down there. They flew me down there. I got the interview, and I got the job. And when I come back, I give my week's notice at the place, where I worked. And I got online and I started looking for rooms for rent. Okay, people need to think small when they are relocating. I looked for rooms for rent. Actually, the people I rented from are probably watching this video. I've known them for over 20 years. And, Florida, South Florida, it's expensive. And I found a room. It was just a bedroom, but I got to share the condo with a school teacher and her boyfriend, who is now her husband. And it worked out decent. They were good people. $700 a month. I couldn't have got an apartment there for $700 a month, but that's all I needed at the time because I was just getting started. The problem is today, people think they have to keep everything they own. Get a mover. Move. Get a house equal to what they had before. Now, if you have a family, yes, that changes things. If you are a single person like I have been, you can live cheap. Even if you have a family, the family can usually stay where they are, and a man or the woman or whichever can go, and they can live cheaply, send the money back home until it's time to move. There are I had friends doing the same thing I did, bouncing around the country, that had families. And this is and we would help each other out. I would get a place and they could stay with me until, But you have to negotiate this stuff before you get there. Companies, if you have a skill they need, they will, gladly put you up for a month. But the problem is today, nobody has a skill. Nobody has the motivation to gain a skill. And motivation is the biggest problem today. I don't buy this, it's too expensive nowadays crap. You don't have motivation because anybody can pick up and go somewhere that has jobs. Okay, you might be staying around a place that has no jobs. What do? Well, you get up and you go to where there is jobs. Man, I have slept in rest areas, parks, in my vehicle for a month, 2 months at a time, just so I could get enough money to get me a place. It always worked out, always. I had that motivation. That is one thing people lack today. And you see these young people today driving brand new spanking cars. They immediately start acquiring debt. They have brand new cars when you don't even need a brand new car. Get a 10-year-old car. They won't do that. They'll have a car payment. Their insurance if they're younger, it's going to be high, especially if you have a new car. Get you an old used car. Get liability, the minimum coverage, liability coverage. Later on, when you're established somewhere, then you can go do all them things and get yourself into debt. That is one thing I never had, was a new car. I just bought my first new car, and I'm almost 60 years old. I just now bought a couple months ago, my first new car, because I never needed a new car. I couldn't afford one. If you don't have a job and you don't have a positive career, which none of them are today, you never know. You could walk in tomorrow and be fired. You don't need to be buying a brand new car at a young age. People overextend themselves, and then they whine and cry and have to live with their parents because they don't have the money to do anything else. 90% of this is motivation. You have to be motivated. Not only be motivated, you have to be willing to sacrifice comfort. You have to be willing to work long hours. If you move into a situation like I have, where you just rent a room, you don't want to be sitting in that room all day. You work your job. If you have extra time, you work a second job. But you have motivation, and motivation will get you out of the hole every single time. There are plenty of jobs out there. I'm so sick of hearing people say there's just no jobs out there. There is plenty of jobs because people, it may not be your dream job, but take it. Work there a few months, build some income. People are too spoiled and unmotivated. You can't have both of those together because what are you going to do? I'm not going to sit and listen to people cry every single day because there's no jobs. This is a large country. You get your ass in your vehicle or you get a Greyhound bus. I've had to do that. Get a Greyhound bus ticket and you show up. Showing up is the first step. When you get there, you figure out how you're going to lay your head down and sleep. You figure these things out. You'll look back on that as an adventure. I guarantee you, you may not enjoy this time where you're having to do all these things, but you will look back at it as an adventure and you'll be glad you did it. 1 month in a hotel or 1 month living in your car isn't that bad. Okay, you got a place to shower, you know. I could tell you numerous times where I've done this. I took a job in a newspaper in Ohio, and these rolls of newsprint are huge. They're like 1,000 pounds a piece. These were the smaller presses. The big presses are like 2,000 pound rolls, and you would stack them up on end. We built a little room in the warehouse, the paper warehouse, out of it, and I got a couch from off the curb, put it in there. Nobody knew I was even back there. I stayed at work. Had a sink, had a shower, had microwave ovens. I lived there for a while until I got a room for rent. You just have to be willing to sacrifice comfort. You have to be, and I guarantee you, you do these things, it will work out. And if the job, here's another part that's good about that. If the job sucks, you're not too committed to, you didn't sign a lease, you didn't, you can just pick up and leave again. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get there and it's a sweatshop. It is the worst job ever. That happens. You have to be prepared for that. Always have a backup plan. I always had more than one job lined up. And over the years, I've learned that, I made friends in just all over the country. So if I ever wanted to move somewhere, hey man, can I crash on your couch for a week? I could do that if I wanted to. So after thinking on this morning, I'm like, wait a minute. I went through this 12 years ago. Well, 2012. We're going to call it, the beginning of 13. I just went through this. I made it fine. I'm debt free. Yes, I found a house cheap. But you gotta investigate these kind of things. You have to find a place. You can buy an acre of land, put a shack on it. There are things people just aren't willing to do. They want a comfortable life no matter where they go, and they're not willing to give that up. And I got news for you, young or old. If you don't have motivation and you're not willing to give up comfort, you're not going to make it. You're going to be dependent on other people, and other people are going to resent you for that. And that's not how anybody wants to be. Nobody wants to be called a bum or a freeloader. Get out there. It's dangerous sleeping in a rest area. It can be dangerous. If you're a man, be a man. Okay? Take precautions. It can be dangerous doing a lot of things. You could pull out of your driveway tomorrow and car plows into you. That could be dangerous. Fear is keeping a lot of people grounded. And if there's not fear in a new adventure, well, then it's too easy. Okay? And things that are too easy don't just appear to people every day. It depends on what kind of job you're going for. If you don't have any skills, you don't have a specific career that you have molded, well then take anything. Move somewhere you want to be and take 2 jobs. But people just don't have the motivation for that. And I don't know what's happened. I've always had that motivation. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just telling you what I've done, what's worked for me. Now I'm in a place that I will probably, they'll scrape me off the floor here one day because I'm not leaving anymore. I've got that out of my system. But I did what I had to do when I had to do it. Now I have the freedom. I don't have any obligations. So I have no reason to go anywhere. But we need to quit saying it's a different economy, the economy is harder and housing is more expensive. There are always other options, always. And you just have to find those people that will give you those options. And if you don't have the motivation to even try, you're going to be a failure. You're going to be a failure. And man, there's nothing nobody can do for you. But motivation is number one. That's what this is about. I'm trying to imply that motivation is the biggest problem, not the economy, not the housing market. It's motivation. If anybody has motivation, then they can acquire anything they want still to this day in this country. That's all I got to say about that. Yep, I think I've said my piece. But if I can do it, you can all do it. Now I'm talking about the people who are physically capable, okay? I always do, and I forget to add this. If you have physical disabilities and you're having issues, of course you're not going to gallivant all around the country and doing what I just told you. This is mostly, I don't even know why I make them, because the young people don't watch me. But the older ones that do have kids can say, hey, I heard, here's what you need to do. Motivate them. I know, it's hard to motivate people these days, but that's it, man. That's what, if you're lacking motivation, there ain't a lot of hope for you. Thanks for watching. Happy trails.